Oh, howdy all. Grab yourself a beer. It's time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to give an update on the Reap Elementalist that I league started with. And the first thing I want to say is that it's no longer truly a Reap Elementalist. I'm using Reap still as an anti-boss skill, but you'll notice here that the AoE on the skill just simply doesn't scale enough without extraordinary investment. And when I talk extraordinary investment, I'm talking going full strength stacking and elder weapons that are that raise AoE based on strength. That sort of level of extraordinary stacking is necessary to get any reasonable screen coverage with it. Now, with that in mind, the conclusion that I came to is that Reap is not pulling its weight as a clear skill. And so I started looking around. I realized a lot of my damage was coming from Corrupting Fever. And so what I started doing was thinking, what's the best way to apply Corrupting Fever many times to an enemy quickly? And I realized that would be Stormbrand. So what I want to do is showcase a 5-way Maven invitation. And that will give a bit of a sense as to what the build feels like in play. As always, upon loading into the Maven's Crucible, just wait a little sec because that can be quite a laggy zone at times. So we're going to be firstly triggering Corrupting Fever. That's essential. And we're now going to look for the bosses, and we're going to use Reap as heavy single target damage, whilst we are also still bringing up more copies of Corrupting Fever on the bosses. Our damage is solid. It's not what I'd term extraordinary, but do keep in mind that I am still in absolute dumpster tier gear, and I'm being silenced frequently at the moment as well, because one of the bosses that I'm engaged with in this encounter is that annoying silence caster from the Academy map. Absolutely terrifying boss that he is. So one of the things that's really solid is the fact that Stormbrand keeps 10 stacks of Corrupting Fever on enemies pretty constantly. Which then means that you're doing a steady baseline of damage. It's enough to slaughter trash, and it's enough to slowly bring down a boss fight as well. So that's 3 of the bosses down. There's actually quite a mean combination of bosses here, especially given that Rek'Tah the Breaker still has a clone active at the moment. So that's from the Maven's ability to summon clones. So I'm just waiting out the nasties here. Then I'll get back in there and deal with the rest of these. This is with level 19 gems. This is a 4-link Corrupting Fever with no additional work scaling it beyond just the 4 links. And so there's a lot of ways that this can improve from here. The key thing that will improve is getting my hands on a set of Essence crafted gloves. There's an Essence that causes socketed skills to deal 30% more damage over time. Needless to say, that is extraordinary for this build. Anyways, that should give a bit of a sense that the 5-way Maven fights are, which is a Moss level 78, so it's a tier 11 content, not particularly difficult. In terms of trash killing, we'll now go and run a map. The first things first is just going to spec those points, and then we'll go and run a map, and that'll showcase what it looks like there. So I've just prepared a 3 Watchstone Academy map, which has no mods that I'm really terrified of, and we'll run this now. I just realized that I put this in, it's actually too low. It's a 2 Watchstone Academy because it's a tier 11. So it is actually too low for the Veritania influence to kick in. Anyways, it's still a tier 11 map, so it's a low red tier map. And you'll see that the damage looks derisory until we start until we put Corrupting Fever on. And then the enemies die pretty quickly. It's not blitzing enemies down, but there's a lot more investment possible. Once more, 4-link and level 19 gems being used here. Level 19 gems without quality, I should say. Quality helps a lot on the Corrupting Fever as well. I hate this tile set. I absolutely hate this tile set. I always get lost in it. You'll see that I'm using Reap occasionally as well. It's not the main... Sorry. It's not the main deal for this build, but it is there for heavier bossing, like that Tormented Spirit infected monster there. My Reap is a 5-link, and so it has a little bit more damage on it. In terms of gear upgrades that I need, like I said, I've got to get my hands on an Essence Gloves. The other mods on it don't really matter. I then also need to upgrade a ridiculously bad helmet I've been using since forever, and also just then solve any problems that causes my resists. And then after that, there's a number of DPS upgrades I can get that are less essential than those two. I also have basically no defenses. The other big damage upgrade that I can get is Cold Iron points. Cold Iron points will tremendously amp up the damage that I'm doing. 2 Cold Iron points practically doubles it, and I can afford it now. It's just that I couldn't afford it until the end of my last play session. So I should get them at some point today or tomorrow. But this is what it looks like with a rubbish tier gear. Anyways, hopefully that gives a bit of a sense as to how the build's playing. Do I recommend it? Not particularly, but it is fun if you're determined to play Reap. It will work. It's not like it's not like a build that's been an absolute failure, but I wouldn't call it a stupendous success either. It's just a serviceable build that's getting the job done. If you got any comments or questions though, definitely fire away below. Otherwise, we'll leave it there, and I hope you have a good one.